When rescuers spotted this massive street cat, they thought it was just another routine rescue. But then he opened his mouth, and what came out left everyone stunned. What happened next would change one woman's life in the most unexpected way. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one, and write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. This giant orange cat had survived 7 brutal years on the streets of eastern Oregon. His patchy fur told stories of countless fights. His body covered in scars from a life most animals wouldn't survive. But when he opened his mouth, something extraordinary happened. The sound that came out wasn't like any normal cat meow. It was rough, squeaky, almost like he was trying to speak. A woman who found him near her house couldn't believe her ears. She had never heard anything like it. When she called her husband to listen, they both stood there in shock. This cat wasn't just meowing. He was communicating. And what he was about to say would soon capture the hearts of thousands. The woman started leaving food and water for Clancy, and he found a small protected spot near their property. He refused to leave, and watching him broke her heart. What kind of life had this gentle giant endured? Despite everything he'd been through, despite the scars covering his orange fur and the exhaustion in his green eyes, there was something special about Clancy. Something that made people stop and stare. In a world where stray cats are usually ignored, Clancy's round, cheerful face and puffy cheeks made everyone who saw him feel instant warmth. But it was that voice, that strange, captivating voice that would change everything. The woman knew she had to help him find a real home. She began contacting local animal shelters, yet she received the same discouraging response every time. Every shelter was currently full, and because Clancy had constantly lived outdoors, locating somebody to take him in would be extremely challenging. They simply lacked room for a feline who could need to remain there an extended period and would need plenty of assistance and instruction to understand how to exist in a residence with humans. There was also constantly the concern that Clancy's time on the streets could have made him unable to be domesticated. Yet the lady and her spouse had witnessed with their personal eyes how peaceful and affectionate he was capable of being. Still, regardless of how intensely she attempted to persuade various shelters, nobody would consent to accept him. One day, the kind person who had been providing food for Clancy noticed that he appeared unwell. His fur appeared less shiny than previously, and his body seemed weaker and more delicate. Clancy typically enjoyed bumping his head on people when he encountered them, yet that day he scarcely had sufficient strength to rise. It was devastating to observe the kind giant appearing so miserable. Clancy required medical assistance right away. The person covered him gently in a blanket and transported him to a modest local rescue facility, one of the limited locations they had not tried yet. The shelter was not remarkable, simply a modest location with limited resources that could merely provide him brief care. Yet, it was a place Clancy could relax securely. Still, with Clancy's increasing medical requirements, this modest rescue simply could not pay for the comprehensive treatment he needed. Exchange the shelter employees right away adored the giant chatty cat. Yet they recognized he required significantly more care and focus than their modest, overcrowded shelter could offer. They performed medical examinations to assess Clancy's condition and were shocked by what they found. Clancy received a positive result for feline immunodeficiency virus, sometimes called FIV, which is frequent in outdoor cats who have existed in difficult conditions and experienced numerous battles. Moreover, his body revealed signs of harm that narrated the tale of years living outdoors. His previous scars were scattered throughout, some harsh and uneven, others dimmed, covering his orange fur like a chart of his challenging existence. His teeth were in terrible shape due to inadequate nutrition and zero dental attention. Numerous were decayed and creating him unbearable pain each time he attempted to consume food. He additionally had a bladder disease that had likely remained untreated for months, contributing additional misery to his everyday life. Despite all these medical conditions, Clancy had remained a kind giant. It was clear that this unfortunate cat had never experienced any existence besides the streets. Yet, in spite of all his medical difficulties, Clancy was unlike any street cat the shelter had previously encountered. Cats who had existed their complete lives outdoors, genuinely feral cats, were typically anxious and scared of people. They were entirely self-reliant, having discovered to rely exclusively on themselves to remain alive. Numerous had never felt human compassion and were uncertain how to react to it. Clancy was entirely unlike them. Despite the fact that his damaged body revealed the tale of his difficult existence, he was loving and friendly. He desired focus from people and would actually pursue it. Each time a shelter employee approached his enclosure, his eyes would illuminate, and he would hurry forward, desiring pets and love. Clancy was a total mystery. It appeared like, despite the fact that the streets had been his residence for so numerous years, Clancy had never abandoned hope that eventually somebody would look after him. Currently, that he had a secure location, that caring aspect of him was growing even more powerful. The shelter workers began observing the identical unique thing about him that the lady who had been providing him food observed. His meow sounded nearly like human speech and created happiness to everybody who labored there. Yet there was a critical issue. With all of Clancy's medical requirements, the modest shelter simply could not manage to look after him adequately. The shelter understood that animal shelters throughout Oregon were dealing with excessive animals and insufficient funds. Yet they were committed to locating this cat the assistance he warranted. They trusted that ultimately Clancy would become somebody a fantastic pet, yet initially he required appropriate medical treatment. They reached out to the cat adoption team recognized as CAT in Sherwood, Oregon, and wished urgently that this organization would be capable of taking Clancy. When Heather Sabota, who was employed in communications and development at CAT, discovered his circumstances, she was unable to refuse to allow this kind, chatty cat arrive at their location. She desired to encounter this unusual cat personally and discover if his meowing genuinely did sound like genuine words. Soon after, Clancy was transported to CAT, where he ultimately received the medical attention he desperately required. He was neutered, received treatment for his bladder disease, and underwent emergency dental operation to extract the rotting teeth that had been causing him pain with every mouthful of food. Following multiple weeks of medical attention, Clancy was ultimately feeling significantly improved. So significantly improved that he began chatting even more frequently than previously. His squeaks and chirping noises turned into the constant background sound at the shelter, and the workers could not have enough of his unusual discussions. At this point, every individual person there had become entirely in love with him. And currently that he was becoming healthy once more, they urgently desired to locate him the ideal family. Following so numerous years existing on the streets, he warranted a comfortable house, a soft bed, and somebody who would shower him with affection. Still, despite the fact that they all loved Clancy, they understood locating him a home was not going to be simple. Certainly, his giant teddy bear-like body was cute and huggable, yet he was becoming older, and most people chose to take in young kittens. Furthermore, possessing feline immunodeficiency virus indicated he would require consistent medical examinations and treatment for additional sicknesses that FIV might create, and he would need to exist alone indoors to prevent the virus from transmitting to other cats. He was requesting much from any possible adopter. Yet shortly, Clancy would shock everybody, and the shelter workers would find a method to make the community adore him. One day, during the time Clancy was investigating his new brief home, something amazing took place. He was resting in his typical spot, appreciating the pleasant sunlight entering through the window, when a volunteer approached to provide him some focus. Clancy responded the manner he constantly did, with his unusual, rough meow, was constantly thrilled to observe somebody visit his enclosure, and would constantly reply with a head bump, and occasionally even flip over on his back when he desired belly rubs. He purred happily, yet then something shifted in the noise he was creating. His meow turned clearer than it had previously been, and the volunteer was almost certain she heard him utter one amazing word. From his tiny mouth emerged a noise that was exactly like the word hello. "Did you simply utter hello?" the volunteer questioned in disbelief. The volunteer remained entirely motionless. Certainly, this had to be simply a coincidence or her mind playing tricks. Cats are not genuinely able to talk, correct? Yet Clancy gazed up at her with gentle, caring eyes and meowed once more. This occasion the noise absolutely resembled the word hello. They had all joked previously that Clancy frequently appeared like he was conducting actual discussions with them. He was definitely a highly vocal cat, yet this was something entirely unlike. The volunteer chuckled and provided the joyful giant some additional ear scratches prior to rushing away to inform everybody what she had witnessed. "You guys, Clancy simply uttered hello to me," she declared enthusiastically to the workers. Information spread rapidly throughout the shelter regarding the giant chatty cat who appeared to utter genuine human words. This was not simply his unusual rough meow any longer. Clancy was genuinely unique. Nobody trusted the volunteer initially, yet then they started recording their exchanges with the lovable cat, and there was no questioning that Clancy appeared to be attempting to conduct actual discussions. The shelter had found Clancy's unique attraction, the thing that would absolutely make people more attracted to taking him in despite his age and medical conditions. Nobody would be capable of resisting this talkative cat. They started uploading recordings of Clancy chatting with the volunteers, and thousands of individuals watched, captivated by Clancy's loving character and entertaining little discussions. Nobody was able to trust this was a cat who had lived his complete existence existing on the streets. Within the individuals who viewed the recordings was Sandy, a lady from Oregon who had been observing Clancy's tale since the initial post showed up online. Sandy had constantly adored cats, particularly ones that required additional care and focus. When she observed Clancy's recording, her heart leaped with enthusiasm. She understood right away that she had to encounter him personally. There was something regarding the manner he created his little chirping noises, the manner his eyes brightened when he chatted. It seemed like Clancy was communicating straight to her. The shelter had been truthful regarding all the unique care this giant cat would require, yet none of that concerned Sandy. She simply understood she was able to provide Clancy everything he required, a secure location where he would be, adored and treated for the remainder of his existence. Sandy contacted the shelter, and soon enough she was traveling to encounter the orange giant personally. When she reached at Cat, her heart was pounding rapidly with enthusiasm. Sandy had constantly possessed cats, yet simply a limited months previously, she had experienced the loss of her cherished pet to advanced age. Her house had seemed painfully vacant ever after, and she was simply beginning to consider searching for a new friend when Clancy's initial recording showed up on her display. It seemed like fate. She lacked any additional cats at home, and he required somebody with knowledge and tolerance to provide him a quality existence. Sandy was positive they were destined to discover each other. The instant she entered inside the shelter, she was able to sense the enthusiasm of ultimately encountering Clancy the chatty cat. She simply wished they would bond with each other. Heather directed Sandy to the space where Clancy was relaxing. There he was, the large orange furball resting on his preferred area, as if he had been anticipating specifically for her. His vibrant green eyes gazed up, and he created a modest, chirping noise to recognize his guests. Sandy bent down next to him, softly extending out her hand, and Clancy, constantly the ideal gentleman, bumped his head on her with a gentle thud, his preferred manner to welcome people. He purred noisily, pressing his head on her hand, and released a rough yet obviously loving meow. "Hello there, handsome," Sandy whispered softly. "Are you ready to come home with me?" The moment Sandy lifted Clancy into her arms, she knew. He was bigger than she expected, warm and solid like a living comfort blanket. His chubby cheeks were even more adorable in person, and his purring rumbled against her chest like a gentle motor. This was her cat. She knew it with absolute certainty, and Clancy knew it too. From the second he saw Sandy, he hadn't stopped talking. Meow after meow, chirp after chirp, as if he had a lifetime of things to say to the woman who would finally give him everything he'd been searching for. "I think he likes you," Heather said with a smile. Everyone watching could see it. These two were meant to be together. Clancy had finally found his perfect match. Sandy couldn't imagine leaving without him. Not now. Not after hearing his voice, feeling his warmth, seeing the love in his eyes. "I'd like to adopt him," Sandy told the staff, tears streaming down her face. The paperwork was done quickly. Within hours, Clancy was on his way to his forever home. Sandy prepared everything: cozy beds, clean litter boxes, toys scattered around the house. But Clancy didn't care about any of that. He only wanted one thing: love. And Sandy gave him all of it. He became the king of the house, following her everywhere, chirping and meowing like he was sharing the world's greatest secrets. And during quiet mornings, filled with sunlight, he would do it, that incredible meow that sounded like real words. "Hello, Sandy," he seemed to say, every single day. And every single day it amazed her. In all her years with cats, she'd never met one like Clancy. He was truly one of a kind. "You're my special boy, aren't you?" she'd tell him. And he was. Clancy didn't need time to adjust. He settled in immediately, as if he'd been waiting his entire life for this exact moment. And Sandy was grateful to be the one chosen to make his dream come true. Because love doesn't care about scars. It doesn't care about age. It just needs a chance. Did you enjoy this story? What about you? If you found Clancy meowing at your door with that special voice, would you have opened your heart and taken him home? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.